in 2021, I looked like this. And I was pretty much around 6% body fat. And the reason I know that without having had a DEXA scan is I was incredibly lean to the point where I had striations in my glutes. I had vascularity in my glutes. And I just was very much skin and bone. It felt like, at least. And I want to talk about it because I did it for the sake of a photo shoot. Here are some pictures. And also, I just know that a lot of males aspire to be a very low body fat without really knowing the consequences of getting that low. And so to give a bit of context, my name's David. I'm a personal trainer, online coach, have been for nearly a decade now. This is kind of my bread and butter. And I myself have been through the trenches of getting myself very lean and realizing what it actually is like. And so the first thing that I want you to know is that it is incredibly challenging to not only get down to 6%, but to maintain it. And I'm talking huge sacrifice and massive amounts of discipline with regards to your food, with regards to your relationship, if you are to have one, with regards to your social life. Your world suddenly revolves around being that lean, and that in of itself isn't healthy. And again, this is why I want to give perspective on it. Unless you're bodybuilding and competing, there's no reason to ever be this lean, ever. And so there is a huge sacrifice involved. The second thing is going to be food. It is all you think about. I know you're probably thinking to yourself now, I'm a foodie, I love food, but let's be honest, everybody says that. And if you don't, I'd argue you're the weird one. We're all foodies at heart. But when you're that low and that deprived of calories, you wake up in the morning and you think of food, and you go to bed thinking of food. Again, it's not a healthy place to be. But for the sake of a very small demographic, again, in my opinion, bodybuilding, this is what it takes. But generally speaking, your relationship with food can very easily suffer. And it doesn't surprise me how a lot of bodybuilders, and I coach even some now through my coaching service, a lot of people develop eating behaviors, body dysmorphia, because one thing as well that you probably don't think of is that when you get that lean, it's very difficult to see yourself less lean. Suddenly you've created this new norm, and it's very difficult for you to mentally surpass that and allow yourself to actually be a little bit softer. It really messes with your head. The third thing is caffeination. I'm going to go get some cans now. One moment. So these bad boys here, I lived off them, relied on them heavily. 150 milligrams of caffeine. I had at least I probably had 3 a day. So for some people, you're probably thinking that's not even a lot, mate. That's really not a lot. But for me, it was a lot. And I got very, very dependent on these drinks because you're on so few calories and you have so little energy, you're needing some sort of stimulant to get you through the day. And again, it doesn't surprise me why, certainly in the fitness industry, and I put myself in this bracket as well, why people love energy drinks, because it gives you the energy that you simply don't already have. So you do get addicted to caffeine, in my experience. Fourth is no sex drive, and this is the biggest red flag and the biggest gauge in terms of whether you're getting too lean. Because 8% body fat on me, for example, or 6% body fat may feel different on somebody else. But if you lose your sex drive and you lose any desire to be intimate, that is a huge red flag, and that is the point at which you need to consider increasing your body fat and putting less stress on your body. Because what you don't recognize is that being a low body fat in of itself is stress, and it's unnecessary stress. And so when your body is stressed in so many different ways, it starts to think about like different rooms with all the lights on. It starts to turn lights off to try and save energy. And your sex drive is one of them. It's one of the first to go. So if you can't get it up, if you don't feel like you want to get hot under the sheets, you probably should start eating more food and increase your body fat. And the final thing is performance. For me personally, my performance notably dipped in and around 8% body fat. When I got down to 6, I was just turning up pretty gormlessly to train. My pump was non-existent. My joints were really achy. I felt very vulnerable to injury. Another thing that you may not realize is that you have little fat pads on your joints, and it protects the joint, and therefore it protects the muscle. But when you're such a low body fat and when you're stripping all of that body fat away, you are simply more vulnerable to hurting yourself. And I certainly had creaks here and there. Honestly, it felt like I'd aged a lot due to me getting so low in body fat. So performance is going to dip. Again, your pump's going to go. It's going to be very difficult to motivate yourself to train. The irony of looking shredded is when you look shredded, you are actually at your worst from a health perspective. You're just starving yourself. And so And I will end my experience by saying that although I did find it very challenging and it was a great experience to go through, it did have its moments where you felt like Action Man and you felt a little bit invincible. And obviously, when the photo shoot happened, I felt great. There was a great sense of achievement. But to round off this video, what would my advice be to any aspiring male who wants to be really lean? I would say a really healthy place to be is in and around 10 to 15% body fat. Now, naturally, you're all going to default to 10%, and that's absolutely fine. But I think a lot of it has to come down to common sense and whether or not you're sacrificing huge things in your life in order to get that lean. The reality of it is, from a hormonal perspective, you don't really want to dip too much below 10% because that's when negative things start to happen. And honestly, a lot of this isn't discussed online. And it doesn't surprise me to a large extent why a lot of males are now on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, because their testosterone is so low because they have tanked their testosterone because their image, their brand is based on them being very, very lean. And so you have to have this visceral awareness of when you've gone too far. So, 6% body fat, it sounds great as a label, but the reality of it is incredibly unhealthy. The majority, if not all of you watching this, do not need to do it. And if you are to do it, you need to recognize that it's an incredibly selfish thing. And it is a conversation you need to have with friends, family, your partner, because it's going to be very, very challenging. But anyway, I'd like to know what you think. Have you been to 6% body fat? If you have, let me know if you experienced below. I am not going to have these cans of Monster now. I'm going to put them back in the fridge. And I'll speak to you in the next one.